What an excellent time to have Adam Button with us. Adam's one of the best in the business.
Hello, hello.
Hi, Adam. How are you, buddy?
Good. Good. Can you hear me?
You're a little soft.
A little soft. Hold on, let me get the video going here too. What the heck?
Okay.
All right, there. Can you? Which screen? What are you seeing on my screen here? I don't know.
You and let's get started.
Let's get started.
Go to webinar page.
Okay, it must be this one here.
And I want to know what your T-shirt says.
Yeah. Well, my T-shirt says all-time low. Oh, sorry, all-time low. You had that one on. I had the all-time high one on before, and this one over here says, "This is don't panic."
Oh, buddy. So,
it's
yeah. So we went from, in a week, Adam, from return on equity to return of equity, from cash is trash to cash is king.
Yeah.
Beginning of a new bear market, or just a little cleanse and it'll reestablish itself and we get another wave to the upside. What do you think?
I mean, the only piece of economic news yesterday was the ISM non-manufacturing index, and it was at the highest since 2005. This isn't the start of any kind of crisis or anything like that. But that said, the stock market's gone too far, too fast. But I think we'll get another washout here. It's going to be a very interesting open. The VIX is at 50 right now. You know, the S&P 500 is going to fall another 50 points for sure. Some margin calls will be mixed in. And, you know, we'll see how ugly it gets. Tuesday's a pretty good day for a market bottom. There's a kind of similar episode to this back in August 2011. And you saw that sell-off run through the Monday. And then on the Tuesday, you got a fresh low, and then it turned around on Tuesday. Maybe a classic turnaround Tuesday.
Yeah.
You know, the VIX story is a really interesting story about how some of these ETFs have blown up.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go. VIX, which is the inverse VIX, and you know, people have been picking up quarters off the sidewalk for a few years, selling volatility and being long VIX, and I believe there's some problems. That Credit Suisse was one of the bank's names, so ECNs have proven they don't work. I mean, it went.
Yeah, that's right. It's XIV.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, just to explain, if people don't know, it's XIV is the ETF. There's another one, SXVY, and they're going to wipe out about $3 billion in value here at the open. They closed yesterday. Well, the XIV did at 99. I was down about 15%. It closed. It's going to go to zero here today. It's a Credit Suisse product for sure. There will be lawsuits. It's really unclear about how it all went down and why it lost so much money so quickly. But you know, hedge funds own it. Credit Suisse itself owned about $500 million of exposure to it. They say they're hedged. So shares of Credit Suisse were down like 7%, but they've mostly come back. So, you know, the story is, like you said, it was a great trade, though. I mean, for years, it went from about $10 to $144 through last week. And this is the old long-term capital management trade from 1998. They were betting against volatility then, and it's a great trade until days like this.
Like correlations are great until they stop working, till the music stops.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you know what's interesting is the muted response in FX, don't you think, with all this carnage? I mean, you know, comparatively, we've had a little bounce in the dollar. You know, nothing that impressive. Where, you know, I can remember times like this where there'd be big flows into the dollar. It doesn't seem to me that that's happening. Maybe it will happen, but so far it's been anemic, the bounce in the dollar. Yeah. What do you think?
What was it? I guess it means there is no big carry trade ongoing. If you think there would be some de-risking, and there's clearly a little bit in the dollar and the yen, although to a lesser extent the yen. But yeah, it's nowhere near the magnitude of what's happening in stocks, and even bonds, picked up yesterday, but that's reversing a lot today. And I think all of that is really just adds to the confidence that it's a kind of a temporary event, really a kind of flash crash, and it'll be a distant memory in 2 or 3 years, as crazy as it seems now. Now, does it end today, tomorrow, the next day, next month? It's a little harder to say, but I think now that there's this focus on some of these ETFs blowing up, that kind of tends to focus the market's mind on what went wrong.
It makes people not want to play. It makes people not want to play, at least with those products. And there's been such a big move into ETFs, not as much so ECNs. They're, much more complex, but, the S&P 500, I guess, is the largest owned ETF, and it was fairly orderly, even though we had huge drops within minutes. And I think what's happening now, maybe you could shed some light on it. For a long time, people were talking about market structure, all right, and that we don't have open outcry, and it's all done by machines, and that could add fragility to the system if things were under pressure. So, you're even seeing that, with one candle in cable last night. Within a heartbeat, it dropped 50 pips. So perhaps we're really going to test market structure here over the next month or so.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we saw in the flash crash a few years ago, it is broken to some extent, that you get these moves, and really you can't put a Y on it. I mean, but even that happened in '87. That's way before my time. But part of it is the market psychology. Part of it is that volatility was so low, market was so complacent, there was so much leverage, and I think this is an inevitable reckoning anytime that happens in any market. I mean, crypto's another one.
Yeah, I want to get to that. Yeah, I want to get to crypto and ask you what you think. But what was kind of a market tell? We were talking about it during the blow-off phase of S&Ps when they kept going up. The VIX was going up with it, and that's it happens occasionally in their false signals. But I mean, the S&P and the Dow were rocketing, and the VIX was trading 11, 12 instead of under 10. It was kind of a market tell.
I think the bottom was the 26th of January. Was that?
Yeah.
And an interesting point, I think the regulators are going to get hauled out on this, and I'll transition to Bitcoin because it's important. There's ETFs, and I think there's leveraged ETFs and ETNs, and this happened in a leveraged, sort of a derivative-driven ETF, and I think BlackRock was out criticizing those, saying they shouldn't exist. I mean, why do investors need a triple levered anything when you have the one-off one, you have less degradation, less decay in those, and they're really, if you're marketing these to retail investors or making them available, they probably shouldn't exist. Now the SEC is bought off, so I don't know how it's going to shake out, but there might be some pressure to get rid of some of these leveraged ETFs, and you have a lot of money in the S&P 500 ones, the other ones, and if they make some sort of announcement, it would be the kind of announcement or the push to close a year or two from now, or 6 months at least. Yeah. But there would be a little bit of selling on that sort of thing.
The erosion, Adam, and I could speak with personal experience. I've owned an ECN that the decay was a TVIX. The decay on that, even if the VIX was moving sideways, just because of the cost and whatever their strategy is for buying options, it has as bad of an decay as an option does. It can decay 90%.
I mean, something like the SPY, which is the S&P 500 ETF, it works. There isn't really that. I mean, the fees are covered with the
right. It's the ECNs. You're right. They should not be marketed because, I'm supposed to be, quote unquote, a sophisticated investor. I had no idea that there'd be that type of premium, that type of erosion if a market went sideways. So,
and just as I'm talking, I see the headlines crossing, Credit Suisse is shutting them all down, those VelocityShares ones. So that was sort of expected, but they're going right to zero from $99 is it's an awful day for
The
some
XIV
people.
is going to be at zero?
Yeah, well, I think they redeem it all, and if there's any money left over, I mean, I read through the prospectus last night when I was reading it, but it's
Wow. Yeah.
it
Okay.
said irrevocable call notice on the VelocityShares. So they were showing it at $4 last night, but I mean, if you're from 99 to 4, 99 to 0, it's not.
Yeah, that's that's a financial accident. You know, you want to go to Bitcoin, but before you do, I'm wondering what your thoughts are. You know, crypto turned down first. Okay, and some people were talking about crypto actually being kind of a market tell and leader to what could happen to the market. I see no correlation, except maybe it's indicative of you know, extreme speculation and parabolic moves. But so I'm thinking if there's a recovery in the market, perhaps crypto turns first. And I looked at a few charts. I hardly ever do, but the structure on something like Ethereum still looks corrective to me, and that it could be drawing to a close for, you know, maybe a move to new highs in Ethereum. What do you think?
Yeah, I like it. I mean, Ethereum has a use. It's used on the blockchain to fund a lot of these ICOs, and they're continuing to come to market. I mean, there's like dozens of them a day. So there is going to be that real demand for Ethereum. But I think at the same time, we're going to have this washout in different. There was a time when everything was rising, right? And right. Most, if not, you know, 90% of tokens are worthless. So
yeah, we talked about that. We talked about this last time, and compared it to anything with the .com after it, and then you brought up some, I don't know, lemonade company that put crypto at the end of it that went up 10 times in value.
Yeah, that was funny. That feels like ages ago. I mean, there's been so much since then. Kodak has a worthless token too, but they're still up, you know, triple whatever it was. And the interesting part to tie back into the ECNs is, you know, a few months ago, we were so close to getting a crypto or a Bitcoin ETF. And I think regulators are going to look at that now, and the SEC is going to say, no way that's happening, not after this blow up in these leveraged ones. I think the regulatory pendulum is going to swing back, and that pretty much kills the hope of a Bitcoin ETF, which would have been a massive catalyst for crypto. So I think that's bearish. And I think, you know, to speak to your point about, okay, what drove all this? I think that it does feed into Bitcoin, because in December, the animal spirits were unleashed. People saw the returns in crypto, you know, 70 times last year in Ethereum, and said, you know, why am I in markets trying to bang out a 6% return a year? Let's get a little bit greedy. And I think the leverage came in, and I think that's what we saw in January.
Oh yeah, there were stories, bro, about college students, millennials, borrowing on their credit cards to buy Bitcoin.
No, it definitely did, but I think that fed into equity markets as well. People just got a little bit greedier in equity markets, and it really did release the animal spirits. But just like that, seeing the crypto market fall was also a reminder that you know, you can lose money as well, and I think that is kind of played into it as well. So it's just that whole mass psychology of the market was tinkered with in the Bitcoin boom and whatever it is we're at now. You know, I don't like the look of it. You know, I think in any washout you're going to get some bad actors, and we'll see what happens with Tether and Bitfinex. And I mean, that doesn't look very good to me, so I'm avoiding that space. And then, you know, then back in FX, I don't think it's going to filter through that much. I think that the focus is sort of off of crypto for now, unless there's something really dramatic coming.
So we've talked many times at the beginning of months, because your seasonal work is excellent. There have been some great calls based upon your seasonal. So here we are in February. You know, let's pretend that, you know, we haven't had you know, a mini crash in the market. What were the seasonals saying coming into February?
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously anytime something like this happens, the seasonals are above the 5th or 10th thing you want to look at in the market. The positive ones were commodity currencies, especially Aussie dollar. It was a strong month for Aussie, a tad of weak month for the yen. Oil, very, very good month for oil, and that continues for a couple months after this. And gold, it continues to be a winner through February, and then it starts to turn. So those were the big ones there. Now, all that said, I don't know. I mean, it's going to be very tough for any of those trades to finish higher on the month after what we've seen, although it is certainly possible. I mean, we're not down that far in any of those trades. So that's the seasonal look for February.
Okay. So basically gold and Aussie both being commodity plays, and oil as well. So, you know, a lot of gold bugs were probably disappointed that, you know, after that type of drop, 5% in a day, and you're a market historian, I want to know if you know about this, but after that kind of drop in a day, that there weren't more, you know, safety flows of cash into the gold market. It was kind of like,
because your point, it was really an equity-only market event. I mean, it didn't happen in bonds or FX to the same extent, so it's not that surprising. I mean, then again, if you're a gold bull, you're still pretty happy yesterday and the day before to get zero return. But yeah, I'm a bit surprised gold's down today. I think it should turn up, and the big event to watch is February 15th, is the start of the holidays in China for the Lunar New Year. And that, you know, there should be some buying ahead of that. But after that and during that, you really want to watch closely around those days, because that's when the turn in gold is most likely to come.
Okay, I was figuring 1310 might be a decent level. If
yeah,
we got down there.
Yeah, if we get down there, there is still a nice tailwind. The chart looks okay. You know, we got to get up above 1375 is a big level, and then it could
breakdown. If that happens, that's like, that would signal what in your count? I see 1500 if that happens.
Yeah, just saying 1600 could be a really nice bull run. I mean, and what, you know, I guess this dollar debasement would be the trade on that, which is totally realistic if stocks can get back on their feet, which I think is going to happen. But, you know, I mean, the advice for anyone out there is this: you don't need to be a hero today. I mean, a day like today is very, very dangerous out there. FX less so, but making those crazy moves happen.
When you're having events like instruments blowing up, there's nothing wrong with being a spectator. I was talking about that today, you know, and you know, I was a perfect example of not expecting perfection at the crap table. I covered my bearish positions, Russell, ETFs, and maybe I won't even trade ETFs anymore. This was a triple leveraged one. It did perform because it was bearish, but I got out when the S&P was 2,700. And when I made that call, 2,700 seemed like an extreme forecast a week ago. You know, so, you know, so we have the seasonals here, buddy, and great advice about just being, you know, careful, and it's okay to, you know, just sit on your hands and await the next opportunity. Let the dust settle.
I trade small. There's never anything wrong with trading small. It's always.
I think we should always trade small.
Yeah. So.
You know, the opposite of my song "Use Less Leverage" is use max leverage. Try and turn $100 into 10K. Swing for the fences, and your equity goes away.
Yeah. Another one. You got a new one every time. I've probably been on 50 times, and one I haven't heard. Another one I haven't heard.
So why don't you show the community what you guys do? Talk a little bit about what you do at Forex Live, because you're such a great information source, and you're excellent for covering news events. So I bet you were up a lot during the night covering Asia and everything, right?
Yeah, I was reading about that VIX story a lot, and you know, it's interesting. We analyze in real time everything, so technicals, but generally news analysis, 24/7, forexlive.com. You know, we got all the tools there if you're looking for charts and that sort of thing. But mostly it's just a place to talk about what's happening in markets in real time and try to analyze and interpret news as it happens. So if you see a move in the market, a big spike in anything, you know, go to forexlive.com, and we'll generally have it figured out for you. We're on top of every news source in the world and figuring out what's happening with all the sources.
And you're now covering crypto, I see, Adam. It's new.
Yeah,
Crypto
exactly.
there.
Yeah, we're on top of whatever's happening there. You know, headlines were crossing last week about subpoenas for Bitfinex. We had that for really anyone else in the world on the web. So we try to be quick on the news there, and try to have some unbiased insight into that market. And also, I wanted to congratulate you guys. I see you up for that FX Street Award. You certainly got my vote. So good luck with that.
Oh, well, thank you very much for your vote, buddy.
Support you there.
The money's in the mail.
Get a new T-shirt.
And
I know I got all-time high, I got all-time low. I don't know what other one I can.
And you don't know, I brag about you to the team that whenever you know, I need someone to step into the you know, the abyss of not having a guest, so many times you come through for us, and you did it again. So I want to thank you so much, my trading warrior brother. You know, safe trading to you and all your people. And
yeah, well, it's a harrowing day today. I know I'm pretty revved up for it here. The stock market's going to open in about 5 minutes, so I think it's a major event to watch to see how it shakes out here at the open. It's going to be really, really interesting.
Well, you know, in times like this is the advice I give to people like you. Be yourself, a pro.
All right. Well, that's great
Which
advice.
you are.
Don't get greedy.
Which you are, buddy. Thank you so much, Adam.
Thanks, yeah, well,
great talking.
Well, good luck everyone out there, and let's pick up some pips and make some money.
Okay, bro. Adam Button, everyone. You can follow him at FX_Button or at Forex Live. And that's it for us. See everyone in the chat room for all the action. If you're not a member, consider joining so that after F.A.C.E closes, you have great sounding boards like Blake Morrow in there and Steve Volge and Stelios, and guys that are in there are serious traders. So that's how they feed their family and put a roof over their heads. And most of all, don't just count your pips, count your blessings. See everyone tomorrow. Adios.